Oh yeah. Welcome to today's episode on what do you think? And this is a program where I get to talk about what I think, and it's just my opinion as regards a public discourse. And we just basically talk about events and happenings as it happens all across the globe and the world as related to us. In general, with more focus on Africa and Nigeria. So I'm your host, DA. This is another episode or another session, and So today we'll be talking about the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal judgment and what that judgment means, what it means. As regards the political space in Nigeria, and one that has really caught my attention is that has to do with the judges saying that Abuja is just another state in Nigeria, and I beg to differ on that, and I want to state the reasons or situations that is probably making me situations or reasons that's probably making me differ as regards that. So another rejoinder again, the topic today is presidential election petition judgment. Abuja, is it a state or it's a federal capital territory? Now, what's the difference? Those are the questions we want to ask ourselves. What exactly is the difference? What makes a state and what makes a federal capital territory in the Nigerian context, in according to the laid down rules that has to do with the 1999 Constitution? And pardon me, I might not be a lawyer, but you don't have to be a lawyer to understand your constitution or to understand basic things that are in your constitution or that are written, or for you to be able to analyze those things. And I would want to put this as a different reason, but the judges have their reasons why they've given all the verdicts that they've given. And for all that they have given, the only one that has stood out for me, I'm not talking about any other person, I'm talking about for me, the only one that has stood out in that verdict is that kind of like has created a dispute as regards what Abuja is, what the federal capital territory is. Is it a state or it's a federal capital territory? And certain defining incidents makes it very pure or clear to understand. Now, first of all, Abuja is the capital of Nigeria, and Abuja became Abuja in 1991 by the General Ibrahim Babangida regime as a military head of state. The plan has been in motion by Muritala Mohammed, according to records, but Ibrahim Babangida activated it, finally made it happen by moving the capital from Lagos to Abuja. But with the military regime, the status quo of what we have now in terms of the democratic arrangement is not the same of what we have then in the military regime. So the 1999 Constitution created another kind of like status for Abuja. And before then, the arrangement was that Abuja is supposed to be a liberal land. And in the sense, the indigenous people in Abuja were resettled, sort of giving new space and new land, and government sort of like working out compensations. There were disparity and all of that when that was happening, no doubt. But then that was the initial laid down plan for what Abuja is supposed to be. And then fast forward, 1999 came, and when 1999 came, Abuja became the democratic capital of Nigeria, by the sole fact that General Ibrahim Babangida moved from Lagos to Abuja in 1991. So when when the democracy began, and elections began, and democratic governance started in Nigeria in 1999, Abuja adopted that arrangement for itself, which makes it a federal capital territory and not a state. So where the confusion is now is, why are the judges calling Abuja somewhat similar to a state status? I think that's where the confusion is. It's either it's a state or it's a federal capital territory, and the term federal capital territory means the space in which the federation has agreed to operate from. Operating from, it means that's where the president is, that's where majority of federal arrangements are being done in terms of ministries and everything that has to be done. Now, that aside, Abuja does not enjoy the same thing that other states enjoy in this democratic dispensation. Every other state in Nigeria, the 36 states in Nigeria, they all have their various state governors. Abuja does not have state governor in its sense as state governor. So what has been happening is that the federation elects a president. Now, the president appoints someone who serves as the prime minister or as a governor on his behalf to manage the affairs in Abuja. I hope you're getting that point. So the president is the one that appoints who becomes the governor. He is not elected. So that means the people in Abuja do not elect governors, or don't have the right to elect governors. Basically, that's what it means, that the president would oversee their affairs there by appointing someone, whoever they deem right to be governor, regardless of indigenous arrangements and everything. And we all know what indigenous and local and ethnic and religious politics is in Nigeria. That's the complexity of Nigerian politics. So if the Nigerian politics understood all of this, and everybody in their various land arrangements is leading in their own space, Abuja is now the place where anybody from anywhere can come and be FCT minister. El Rufai, majorly since 1999, all the persons that have become FCT ministers are not from Abuja. They are not, the Gwari people. They are, or what's the name again? But they are basically not from Abuja. So, in that sense, that means that, so we have Jeremiah Timbrut Useni from Plateau State, 1999 to 2001. Ibrahim Bunu from Borno State, 2001 to 2003. Nasi El Rufai, Kaduna State, 2003 to 2007. Aliyu Modibo Umar from Adamawa State, 2008 to 2010. Bala Mohammed, Bauchi State, 2010 to 2015. Mohammed Musa Bello, Adamawa, 2015 to the last administration, and now we have the FCT minister, who happens to be no other person that former governor of Rivers State. So that has kind of like explain what FCT is standing for, and the fact that they don't elect their own governors. So that means that you have a presidency that, or a president that elects, no, not even elects, that appoints somewhat like a governor for those people in Abuja. So you see what that has deprived residents and citizens, or maybe residents and indigenes of Abuja. Now, if the president is the one to appoint who becomes their governor, so that means those in that environment do not have rights, don't have a right to vote. They don't have the right to elect who becomes their governor. They basically do not have someone that leads them from within them, as per se, in the Nigerian context of local politics based on ethnic, religious, and whatever arrangement that there is. So the Pept judgment stating that Abuja is now just like regular states. This is one thing that makes it different, that Abuja is not just a regular state because they don't elect state governors like other regular state does. Now, number two point that makes Abuja different as regards the other states is the fact that Abuja does not, they don't have access to their land. Now, the indigenes technically have, according to Nigeria, has allowed the whole of Nigeria to use their space as a federating point, or as a operation points for the federal government. So that means they've left that rights to the federal government. So Abuja is the only place where land administration is controlled by the federal government. Note, Abuja is the only state, according to the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal judgment, that has basically classified Abuja as a regular state, means that Abuja is the only state that the federal government controls what happens with land. And that's why you have Wike saying if your CFO is not up to date, or you build where you're not supposed to build to, the bulldozers are coming. So, but you won't have Wike, federal government would not do that on unacquired lands in states environment. In any other state in Nigeria, it's only possible for them. It's only a Wike can only do that in Abuja. He won't say he's going to do that in Ogun State or Yobe State. He's only acting as a governor in that environment, Abuja, which is a federal point where he has been appointed and not elected. So this is the second reason that is making Abuja not to have the same status as the regular states in Nigeria. So if you now have this situation, and then the judges are saying Abuja is nothing else but a regular state, then it means the people of Abuja are being shortchanged. So this is why I feel that the judgment pass would, I'm not in support of any party, do not get me wrong. None of the candidates in that courts brouhaha is of my preference, but I'm only just saying that futuristically, these judgments, what it's going to mean going forward in Nigeria. It now means that the people in Abuja, the resident and indigenous people of Abuja, should now start demanding to have their own governor, as the election tribunal has recognized them as just as a regular state. Now, this is where the confusion is with the constitution. The constitution has stated that whoever is going to be president would have 25% from one third, right? From 1/3. Correct me if I'm wrong. From 1/3 of the states in Nigeria, which is, I guess, 25 or thereabout, should have 25%. So if you now have that sort of situation where the constitution has stated that and mentioned all the states and specifically said the word and FCT. I don't think those that wrote that constitution were confused about what they are trying to explain. It was they basically understood the nomenclature of the rest of the Nigerian states as against what the FCT is, not being the regular states. And the reason they are requiring that you have that 25% in FCT is to say at least 1/4 of the 100% votes in FCT that's 1/4 of the people are in support of you. And if you have 1/4 of the population in support of you, you basically have a very good substantial number of people backing your governance in that space. And so doing, when you now maybe do things, they would kind of like you have the needed on ground supports. That's what that constitution was trying to address, so that whoever's going to be president would have that needed on ground support in Abuja at the same time in the federation. So it's not saying it's a must to win. It's just kind of like a permutation that makes sure that you get this amount this number from that specific place. So elections, or the rules for election, varies everywhere. For instance, in the US, you have regular elections take place, and after that regular voting takes place, you now have the electoral college. And the regular voting does not finalize what the outcome is going to be. You still have the electoral college still having its major input. And I could remember in I guess that's the 2016 election in the US, Hillary Clinton had like the majority of the votes. And when they said Trump won, I was confused, but Trump won based on electoral college, I believe. So I was confused. How come this lady has more numbers, and why did this guy win? So it's their own arrangement. It's the US arrangement to have such situation. But in the case of Nigeria, that is what the constitution has stated, that you need this amount from the FCT. So if it didn't add, the constitution did not say 37 states, why would they say 36 states and the FCT? It makes no sense. I felt like whoever had written that could have just said 25% from this number of 37 states. Simple. There's no need to give FCT a separate and conjunction, to the rest. Because if it's the same as the rest, he could have just said the same as the rest. But these terminologies might not mean anything to the court of law, but in the real sense, if we are to grammatically analyze it, the and there's a conjunction, and it's adding this to this. It does not make, if it's the same, there's no need making it and. It's just same, like just say 37 states. But if it says 36 states and the FCT, it's like and. You need that FCT. But if the interpretation, like I said, if the interpretation the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal has given it is that it's a 37 states, then that means the education that people like us or other people, of my age above and below had gotten about the state and capital recitation from primary school and all of that is basically a waste now, because you've been taught the wrong thing. You've always talked about 36 states, and you call the federal capital Abuja. So if that's what the Court of Appeal, the tribunal, has decided, then our education curriculum needs to be changed. We need to start telling these kids the right thing, that Nigeria is a 37 state nation, not the initial 36 that everybody recites, and we need to add that, we need to make that number accurate and correct and clear. So these are the reasons I feel that Abuja is not, and I say it with clear understanding of how the Nigerian system has been working since 1999. Abuja has never been regarded as a state of its own. It's a federal capital territory. That's where Nigeria operates from. That's the base where Nigeria operates from. It's just to understand that we just need to really understand and not play gimmick about it. Like, for instance, if you have the state government, now let's say we have the state government, and the state government, let's say Lagos, for instance, Lagos has Ikeja as its capital. Now let's Ikeja as the capital, Alausa specifically as the capital area. Now let's now say, as the governor is in Ikeja, Alausa is now, because it's a dedicated space, it's a GRA, it's a government area reserved for governance. Alausa would now be a extra local government area, because the state government operates from there. It doesn't make any sense. So that's the point I'm trying to drive at, that we all know what these things are, and confusion should not be made for whatever reasons, for any interpretation that will create more conflicts in the nearest future. And the conflict will arise from the fact that if the Supreme Court opposed the verdict, the conflict will arise with the fact that Abuja citizens, or Abuja indigenes and residents, don't elect state governors. So now, should they now start electing state governors simply because we have said they are regular states? Now, should they also start having their own state arrangements that borders around their land, just like every other state has that arrangement that borders around their land? So if these are things that we weigh in, and we will realize that for us to be critical and realistic and give proper interpretation and understanding for what that means, we have to really clear the air and keep the information straight, so that there's no conflict in the future. And if the court really wants to decide that Abuja has to be a state, then I think there will be a need for a constitutional amendment for that section of the constitution, which hasn't identified Abuja as a state. And so if that is done, then everything can go. But then if that's going to be done afterwards, it means they all will have admitted that in the real sense, for the 2023 election, Abuja is not a state, and is not regarded as a state. And the people in Abuja also have a choice, and their rights should be respected. So if we're saying they are a state, then we should make them have their own state government or gubernatorial election, where they elect their own governors and do what they want with their land. Yeah, and that's just my point. So once we are able to resolve this side, then the verdict is fine. Other things in the verdict that I'm not really so cool with, but the judges were able to give the reasons why they won't admit some of the evidence that the petitioners brought, or claim that some of the evidence are not worth admitting, because for legal technical reasons. And that you can argue with them. If they give you if they say, oh, for us to decide that this person is a criminal, you need to bring the laid down arrangements to truly identify that that person is a criminal, is to have a record, so police biometric record of that person involved in that criminal situation, and court verdicts. There was a court verdict, but there's no biometric arrangement. So if there's no biometric arrangement, according to their legal interpretation as judges with their experience, it means that they can hold that person responsible for that crime. And if there was no biometric arrangement back then it means there will be none, and that sort of filing can't win with that rule that they set. So that's understandable. But this one of Abuja being a state or Federal Capital Territory is just like it's just going to create more confusion. And except we're really ready to deal with that confusion going forward, then we might be giving that some thoughts or some consideration. So, but basically, those are just my opinion as regards the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. Like I said, I have other reservations, but those are more personal. Well, this is also personal, but this is something that I feel like should be something we are working on correcting, or we would be working on adjusting. It's either if the judgment stands, then the Constitution would need some sort of amendment to correct that line, that sentence of the states and FCT. So until that correction, then there will always be conflict. But then even if that correction happens, that we have now admit that Abuja is a state, are we now going to say we would make Abuja indigenes, give them back their land, their access, or their land access, just like every other state have, and also give them the right to elect their own state governors? So these are my concern, and these are my interpretation of what a state in Nigeria is versus what a state versus a Federal Capital Territory. So if you're able to understand that, you understand my perspective. So it's been a nice episode with you guys on what do you think on the Dark Room live stream. You can always join me on this channel, maybe on Facebook or on YouTube. On YouTube is Dark Room Blog, and on Facebook is Dark Room. You can just subscribe, like, and help share. It would help go a long way. That's the gift you can just you can give me, to make this channel go wider, and let's pass the information across. So if you happen to be seeing it now, kindly help share, like, subscribe, and pass the information across, and we can always meet here, and you always get notified whenever I come on live. And then the live sections would be interactive as well, where I would have the phone lines open, and you can call in and let me hear what you think, because it's all about you. The show is all about you. What do you think? And I get to know what you think, and we get to analyze these things in a very diplomatic way, non-abusive. Make your point clear and state your claim. And I make my point clear and I state my claim. If we align, fine. If we don't, we see the lapses, and I get to learn from you and you get to learn from me. So there's no man that is an island of knowledge to himself. Everybody learns from the other person. Just like I've stated now, these are my reasons or my perspective. And you might say something else, or you might bring your reason and perspective, and I would look at it and say, oh, you're right on that. But on this, I'm giving my perspective, what I think it is, or what I believe it is. And if you have a varying thoughts, you can just drop in on the comments, let me know what you think, and we can engage subsequently as well from there. But don't forget to like, share, and help broadcast or subscribe on YouTube, so you can get notified of every time I come on live. And it's been a nice time speaking to you guys, and if you're watching, it's been a very nice time. I'll see you guys on my next broadcast. See you guys. See you soon. Thank you. Don't forget to like and share.